This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and today I have the first combat sports female photographer in the history of boxing and wrestling. She's taken pictures for WWE, many big boxing events, and we'll see if it's other wrestling events other than WWE. We'll get into it. But Linda Platt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Excited.
Where are you based? I know you're on Pacific time for any of the fans wondering why we're doing this.
I'm in the Reno area in Sparks. It's a little bedroom city outside of Reno, about 5 minutes away.
Okay. I've driven by Reno before on my way to Las Vegas from Calgary, but I've never actually stopped there.
It's nice little city, still tiny.
I think Ken Shamrock, the MMA guy, at one point had a gym there, didn't he?
I don't know. I don't know. So many gyms have closed. I don't know.
So how did you get involved in combat sports photography?
I work for a little newspaper called the Las Vegas Mirror, and I started working there in late 1979, and I couldn't find a big newspaper to take me because I had worked for the Army before that teaching photography. So a little newspaper took me and said, "We need a sports photographer." So I said, "Sure, I can do that." And I went to a couple of fights and came back, and he said, "You're hired."
Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy that type of photography?
Gosh, yes. I love it. I mean, I filmed Joe Louis before he passed away. Muhammad Ali before he passed away. And then I started in 1981, I think is when they started with the wrestling at the Showboat. And that's how I got involved with the wrestling. I didn't do too much because I think they had one show a month for about 3 months. I don't remember. But they had all the big names. It was a big draw.
Was it AWA or WWE?
I think it was WWF.
Okay, because I know AWA also ran there. They did ESPN TV tapings there for a while.
To tell you the truth, I don't remember. I remember the name Vince McMahon.
Okay, and it sounds like you said Hulk Hogan. You met him there, right?
Yeah, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, at that show, and the Road Warriors, and Tito Santana.
And you said that you had not exactly the friendliest of encounters with Andre.
No, I didn't. He's very rude and nasty and mean. He was checking into the Showboat Hotel where they were, I can't say performing, they were wrestling. And he, I went over very nicely. I had on my Entertainment Tonight sticker. And I said, I'd love to take a photo of you. And he looked at me. He was registering, but he had a break there. And he said, "Get away from me." And I just slowly backed off, and I didn't take any pictures of him at the wrestling match. I was done with him. He was so rude. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm a 5'4". I weighed about 120 pounds. And here's this huge fellow, and that's the way he was treating me. But I want to tell you something else very interesting. I found out that wrestling is for real for the first time. I thought it was all choreographed. I had no idea that it was for real, but it is.
Really?
Isn't it? I always thought it was rehearsed. They are such great acrobats, and catching them in midair. I just had a ball. And and then I had the incident with Bobby Heenan. He was told by the promoters, "Do not come out. There's a girl in the corner. Do not come out feet first." And of course he did. Knocked me out. Cold. I went backwards. The camera hit my nose across here. They took me to the hospital. I was okay. I just probably had a little concussion. But afterwards, Bobby asked me if I wanted to go to dinner, and he was married. And they said, Linda, he's a ladies' man. So I said, oh, thank you. It's okay, Bobby. Very nice. Very nice. I never, except for Andre the Giant, all of them were very sweet and cooperative. Hulk Hogan was wonderful. And the way I got the picture from Hulk was
Show
I
show the picture for the fans.
oh, I'm just trying. I'm not used to this. There we go. I don't know if you can you see it? Let
Yeah,
me check the screen a
yeah,
little
we
bit.
can see it now. Yeah.
See, and he signed it. And I had an assignment for my students. I taught special needs kids for 34 years, and I had to do some letters. And so I said to the principal, can I do letters to movie stars, because those are informal letters? And we got a letter. We got the picture back, and it, like I say, it hung in my classroom for 6 years before I left. He signed it to us, and I thought that was so sweet, really sweet. He is very, very good with kids, and all the, I think all the wrestlers are. I didn't have a problem with any of them, really. You know, they were all very sweet.
Now you mentioned that they were said not to come out of the ring around you at that time. Do you think like they did that on purpose to try and knock you out? Obviously, he asked you out after. Maybe you
I
didn't
think
mean
he
to.
came. I think he came out on purpose, but I don't think he intended to hit me as hard as he did. I did have a big, and it must have been televised because my parents saw it on TV. You can imagine what that was like. I mean, I went head over heels backwards. He's strong. You get kicked in the face. It's kind of
I wonder if that's on tape somewhere.
probably,
One can
probably,
find it.
yeah. He very nice, so very sweet. When he apologized, I'm so sorry. He could have done it on purpose for fun. I don't know, but I don't think he had a mean bone in his body. None of them did except Andre, and I don't care for him too much. What can I say?
Well, he's been dead since 1993. So
Yeah, an enlarged heart, I think, killed him.
yeah, they say that it was his giantism, but he was like an insane alcoholic. He
Oh,
would
I didn't
drink
know that. I didn't
constantly.
know that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that contributed to his health problems. He may have died young, no matter what. But it's like he
Well,
was.
maybe that's why he was nasty to me. He may have had a little nip or two before I saw him. But I mean, I was very nice. I never get up, even to this day, when I'm photographing, I never get up in a fighter's face. I just don't do it. I said, may I take a picture? Oh, sure. Come on. We know you're, come on, come on. It's different. But with the wrestlers, I had never done it before. And I don't have the picture of Tito Santana that I posted on my Facebook page of Tito in midair. That was pretty funny. But
You
I
did.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I wish it had lasted longer at the showboat, but I think it was there for about 2 or 3 years. I don't remember. And they may have only been there once a month. Here comes Howie Mandel.
Yeah, very very vocal cat.
Yeah, he's 19.
My friend also has a 19-year-old cat.
He hears you talking. He wants to say hello.
Uh,
Now he's happy. Otherwise, he's going to howl through the whole interview.
Now, as far as like who was nicer between boxers or wrestlers, or who was more open to doing pictures, because I find like fighters overall are nicer than wrestlers overall for some reason.
Well, I didn't have any trouble with the wrestlers, but I didn't do it that often. With the fighters, I've never had a problem. Muhammad Ali was amazing, very funny, very loving. I went to his house in LA, and he told me that Joe Louis lived next door. He was always teasing me. Joe Louis didn't live next door. So he was just pulling my leg. Gene Kilroy told me that. And then another time I needed a picture for my 20th high school year reunion. That was in 85. And Muhammad and I were at an awards dinner in New York. And I saw him sitting by himself. So I said, may I have a picture with you for my yearbook? And he said, sit down next to me. And he sat next to me and he put his arm around me and he said, and put his head next to mine. He said, huh, now you got to tell everybody I'm your boyfriend. And we had such a great laugh. And I never had so many responses from my high school yearbook as I had with that picture. I just loved him. He was so sweet. Mike Tyson was
That's when
funny.
you took of Hulk Hogan, right?
Yes, Hulk. Yeah, that's Hulk and Baron. What's his name? Brewski? Bruce.
Baron von Raschke.
Yes, Baron von Raschke.
I
That's
think it was definitely AWA. This was right before you probably did AWA. It was they had everyone, and then WWE came in and stole all of their
yes, yeah,
talent.
yeah. Vince McMahon, not a nice person from what people have told me.
So,
But
as you were saying about Tyson, sorry to interrupt you there.
so yeah, I was at Johnny's gym, and Johnny Toko had the oldest gym in Vegas. It was started in 1953. Anyway, Mike Tyson, oh, he was a youngster then, came in to train, and Johnny told me the rule for me, since I was the only woman allowed in the gym. He said, "Don't touch the fighters, and they won't touch you." I said, "That's fine. I understand that. That's a good idea." So I'm loading my camera, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hi, Linda," and I thought, "Oh God, they're already starting on me." And I ignored him and just kept, working with my camera. And he said, "How you doing, Linda?" Because he had a lisp. And I by that time I was a little annoyed, and I turned around and there's this big Hulk standing in front of me. Now Mike is only, I think, 5'9" or 5'10", but I'm only 5'4". And here's this big Hulk of a boxer, the sweetest guy you can imagine. He gave out money to the fighters. He gave out money on the street. He was just a sweetheart. I have a bunch of pictures. If I wasn't tied down here, I have a couple pictures. Actually, I have a whole bunch of them in a box. But I thought you wanted wrestling pictures. But Mike was really sweet. I don't ever remember having a problem with all the fighters I worked with. They were all sweet, and again, I kept my distance, though. I never really, I mean, most of them were married or had girlfriends, and I didn't want to get too close to them because, I didn't know them. And once I got to know them, there were lots of hugs. But other than that, I kind of kept my distance. And people would say, "Oh, you're a fan." No, I'm a photojournalist. I'm not a fan. I'm a friend, but I'm not a fan.
And
So,
there's the Road Warrior.
yes, yes.
Yeah, you took this picture. So Pro Wrestling Illustrated bought this picture off you, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, they did. Evidently, they did. I never got, well, actually, I never got paid for it, but they gave me photo credit. I don't even know how they got it. I did work for the Showboat too, but they had another photographer, but I may have given them some photos. Yeah, that's my only cover. There's Hulk again with the Baron.
Yeah, the Baron was always in there, I guess, when you
Yeah.
were talking. I didn't even know Hulk Hogan ever wrestled him, so that's
Oh yeah.
interesting to know.
Oh yeah. It
I've
just seemed
met
like,
Baron a couple times. He's much older now. If you
yeah.
catch him on the wrong day, he can be very grumpy, but he's got a nice side. But you being a woman, and at that time, I'm sure they were all very nice because there wasn't as many lady wrestlers around in those days, was there?
No, but I love the lady wrestlers. I think they are so cool. I mean, they're like men. They throw themselves all over the place and they jump around. I think they're amazing. I really I get a kick out of women's wrestling. I like to watch pro wrestling now and then. We just don't see it that much. Everything is pay-per-view now. The MMH is on, but I'm not really into MMH. I love wrestling, pro wrestling, and I love, of course, pro boxing. I'm a throwback from the 80s. There's another picture. That's
That's
one of my,
Nick Bockwinkel. Hulk
yeah.
Hogan was Nick
Is
Bockwinkel.
that Nick Bockwinkel? And that was a different fight.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Nick. So yeah, Nick was one of the top guys of the
Yes,
AWA.
he was. Yes, he was. I remember Nick Bockwinkel. I got to write that down so I have the right thing on it.
So being the first female when it was dominated by males, Did any of the males resent you that were also doing photography at some
They
time?
all resented me. Who are we kidding? One of them, I wanted to get a job at the Las Vegas Review Journal. They had a wonderful sports photographer, and he said, we don't want you. And I said, why not? And he said, because you'll have my job. And I said, I don't want your job. I want a job. And I didn't get the job. And that's how I got the job with the Las Vegas Mirror. And it was called, the inside was called the Sports Book. And then one time I was at Caesar's Palace and I was ringside, which was very rare. And I got up to go to the bathroom, came back, and there was a guy in my seat. And I said, get out of my seat. And he said, well, you left. I said, I don't care. It says Linda Platt on the seat. Get out of my seat. And he did. I always had a problem because I very seldom got ringside, except with Bob Arum. Bob Arum put me ringside at most of his fights. And I went to the Garden and filmed Davey Moore with Roberto Duran. And I had picked Roberto it was the WBA light middleweight, 154-pound title. Roberto had been on that no mas that he never said. That was Howard Cosell who said no mas. But anyway, I covered the fight and I was ringside. And Bert Sugar, who ran Ring Magazine, said, who do you think's going to win? And I said, oh, Roberto, 8 rounds for sure. Doggone it if he didn't do it. And Bert never talked to me again. And the picture appeared in Sports Illustrated. So that was my second Sports Illustrated photo. But I photographed Jake LaMotta's wedding to his 5th wife. He stiffed me. But I ended up getting $1,200 for the photo of his wedding. I have a picture with him and Ray Robinson. They fought 6 times. And Ray was in between, his wife, Teresa, was in between Ray and LaMotta. He was not a nice guy. Somebody told me he used to take the tips off the table in New York, go to restaurants and take the tips. Not a nice person. He never paid me the $200 for photographing everything. But that happens, I was young. I didn't know. Now I know better. But
this is one of your Tyson pictures.
Yes, I think that's when Title won the I think it was I don't remember if it was a 12th round knockout or not. He won the title from Trevor Berbick. And there's Mills Lane on the right. Mills was a great referee in the 80s and 70s. And he died after having a stroke, but he lived to be 82. One of the best referees ever. And his boys, the Lane brothers, Tommy and Terry, still promote boxing. So, yeah.
What was the environment like at those Mike Tyson fights when he was at his prime there?
Magical.
Yeah.
Magical. Everybody was just crazy about him. And he reminded me a lot of Joe Louis, and he's very well read, and he would come in with his no socks, just like Joe Louis, and he would wear just plain trunks, and he had a towel around him. He didn't even have a robe. I don't think he ever wore a robe. Muhammad Ali had a nice robe that Elvis gave him, but Mike never wore a robe, and he'd just get in the ring and do his thing and just knock these guys out in 1 round, 2 rounds. And then, of course, he lost the title to Buster Douglas because he had been drinking and carrying on with all the maids in the hotel. And he said this on a podcast with Snoop. He and Snoop do these podcasts, and they are hilarious. And he said he lost the title because he was just goofing around. Don King was now his manager, and he lost the fight to Buster Douglas. Buster really beat him up. And he was also beaten up by Danny Williams. So
yeah, he was partying the same week that he fought Buster.
Yeah, he was partying, and he was also having sex with all the maids. He said so. And Johnny Tocco used to say, he told me, when you're doing boxing, you don't fool around with your wife for 2 weeks. You stay away from your wife for 2 weeks. And most of the fighters did. But Mike was in Japan having a ball. He said it. It was right on the podcast. And he just didn't train properly, and he paid for it. He lost his title. But his fights were so exciting. I mean, the fans were going crazy, just like the last fight with Muhammad Ali and Larry Holmes. It was October 10th, 1980. And Larry was a youngster then, maybe early 30s, and Muhammad was about 38, maybe close to 40, but was showing signs of the Parkinson's and the brain damage, CTE. And Larry beat him up really badly. I didn't like watching the fight. What was interesting were the people sitting in front of me because they didn't have a place for me to sit, so they stuck me with the high rollers. And these high rollers had paid $1,500 a ticket. And I said to one guy, 1,500. He said, "This is the last time I'm ever going to get to see Muhammad Ali. I'm so excited to see Muhammad Ali." He and his wife, $3,000. Back in 1980, that was a lot of money. And they weren't comped in. You know, the hotel used to comp in the high rollers, but not these people. And it was their only chance in a lifetime to see Muhammad Ali. But a lot of the fights were so much fun. There were 23,000 screaming fans at the Roberto Duran, Davy Moore fight. Oh boy, was that a fight! And then I was ringside for all the little fights, the littler weights, the smaller weights, like the featherweights. Um, Salvador Sanchez and Gomez. That was Sanchez was Mexican, Gomez was Puerto Rican, and you know the two countries. Oh, it was a really great fight. And of course, the sad one was, of course, Dooku Kim getting knocked out. He was not killed in the ring. He died 4 days later after surgery. Ray still lives with that. Dooku Kim's mom committed suicide 2 weeks after the fight, but it was just very unfortunate. It happens. It happens in boxing. I don't think it happens in wrestling. Ah, there's Tito Santana. Now I don't know who the two are. Are those the Road Warriors? He was.
I think one. I think that might be Ken Patera that he's drop kicking, but I'm not sure. And the other guy might be Bobby Duncombe. I'm not quite sure.
I don't know.
One of the fans will maybe tell us down the road.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a fun shot. Tito in midair. Actually, it's not in great focus.
And yes, by the way, the wrestlers do kill themselves and get CTE all the time. It happens all the time. It's not just in boxing.
I thought it was all choreographed. I had
no it's and the dark side of wrestling is just as bad as boxing.
Yeah, I suppose. But I had no idea that they were that I thought, you know, like I say, the jumping and whatnot. And I know there's something under the ring. Because one of the guys who follows wrestling told me, he said, under the ring, there is some kind of noise. And when they hit it, it makes extra noise. When they bang their feet on it and everything, it makes extra noise. So the under the
in those days, they wrestled 7 days a week, twice on Saturdays, twice on Sundays. So even if it's mitigated a bit, it adds up still.
It's so cool.
Well, now it's a lot easier.
Yeah, well, the boxers used to. Some of them. There was one called Bruce the Mouse Strauss, and he used to change his name and fight for money, and he'd be knocked out in one city and go to another city, just like the fighters did in the 20s and 30s. They would fight 2 or 3 times in a week, sometimes two times a day. They'd move from one city to the next. I didn't know wrestlers did that. I know they make good money, though. They probably make a lot more money than beginning fighters. I don't know.
Overall, I think wrestlers make more money, but like the very top boxers still make huge money.
Oh yeah.
And now I think wrestler maybe not quite comparable, but the really top wrestlers do pretty well.
They make great money. I know Hulk Hogan did, and then I think he made a movie too. Didn't he?
He made a bunch of movies.
There was I wish I had the comic book to show you. I had a bunch of comic books I bought for 50 cents at the one Big Lots, you know, McFrugal's, one of those real cheap stores where you could get everything real cheap. And it was big. It was like, I don't know, 14 by 11, something like that. And it was called Hulk Hogan versus Muhammad Ali. And the last copy just sold for $150. I saw it on, I don't remember if it was eBay or where it was, Amazon, but I had bought 10 copies of it for fun and I gave them out as presents, and my godson got the last one. But that was a very successful magazine.
This is one of your covers as well, right?
This is my only ring cover, and that's Michael Dokes when he knocked out Mike Weaver in the first round, but he actually didn't. What had happened was um, Dokes uh, was a great fighter, and he was fighting Mike Weaver, who was defending his title for the first time, WBA heavyweight title, and um, Joey Curtis wasn't the referee for the Dooku Kim fight with Mancini, I don't think, but it had such an effect that when Mike Weaver didn't seem to respond properly as Joey thought he would, he stopped the fight in the first round. And Mike jumped up in the air and came down and passed out. And I said to somebody next to me, "What the heck happened?" He said, "Linda, that's a cocaine high." And I said, "Oh, they were all on cocaine back then." He wasn't the only one. Even Sugar Ray Leonard admitted to it. I was stunned. Sweet little Sugar Ray. Never knew he was on
That
cocaine.
would not help you in a boxing match.
No.
No, it would
Well,
not.
actually, it does because you can take a punch better.
But as far as heart rate,
Oh,
you could
yeah.
probably you'd be invincible, but if your heart rate went up too fast, you'd get a heart attack.
Yeah.
Probably.
It was, I don't, or he didn't have enough oxygen. I don't know what happened, but he passed out. But he won the title, and that's why it was called what it was, the Tainted Champ. Oh, there's Salvador Sanchez, and it says, "I'm going to pressure Arguello into retirement." I speak Spanish. And then Tony Ayala was going to fight Davey Moore, and then he got arrested. Tony Ayala got arrested for rape. He raped a teacher, got 25 years. They let him out after 15. He came back and raped again, and he was in prison. And when he finally served everything, he was no good. And then they found him dead in his father's gym, and now they think it was a murder. There is talk that it's a murder. I can't say that for sure. But a lot of the fighters were crazy. You know, this Edwin Valero, I didn't get to see him fight. He was a magnificent fighter. He was on every kind of drug around. Then he got nuts one day and murdered his wife and went to prison. And they put him in prison in Mexico. It didn't last long there because Mexicans do not like wife abusers or kid abusers. And so Valero died. They said, "Oh, he hung himself." And we had another Arturo Gatti, great fighter. And he was murdered by his wife in Brazil. Well, I don't know if she was Brazilian, but she murdered him. And Dateline did a story on it to back what I'm saying, you know. So, you know, boxing has its dirty moments, but it also has its great moments. Mike Tyson used to walk around giving $100, $500 bills to everybody. Oh, there's Mike with Johnny Toko in his gym, the
So you
first
took
gym.
that one at that gym.
That was taken to Johnny Toko's gym. And Mike was so young there, maybe 20. This is when he won his title. So he was about 20 or 21 years old at that time. And Johnny was like another father to him because he had lost Customato. And I happened to snap that, you know, right before a training session. He loved Johnny Toko. Johnny loved Mike. Johnny loved all his fighters.
Someone said Richard Green was the ref for the KO Kim, and he also killed himself after the fight.
They said he killed himself, but I think he was murdered. I think he was murdered, and I think Tony Trudnich, who was the trainer for, not trainer, he was the promoter for Mike Weaver and the Weaver triplets. They're identical triplets. There are only 1 in 20,000 that are born identical. And they said, I think it was 2004, I read he committed suicide. They found a gun by his, you know, by his body. He had no reason to kill himself. The only thing I can think of is it was an armed robbery because Tony always had a lot of jewelry on. You know, I have jewelry, but it's fake jewelry. But he had, you know, diamonds. He'd walk around with all this jewelry. And I think basically he was, you know, they went in to rob him and murdered him. I can't see Tony killing himself. I can't see Arturo Gatti killing himself. I can't see Alexis Arguello
No,
killing.
Gotti did not, and I know people that were friends with him and
Well, he
helped
was
him
on
finish.
dope, I understand, but I don't know that for a fact. Um, I know that Valero was, though, and a lot of them were at the time. That's how they could take the punches. And of course, with Aaron Pryor, and I loved Aaron. Aaron was a great fighter. He was fighting Arguello, and then remember there was the bottle thing where he said to his trainer Panama Lewis, he said in Spanish, "Not that bottle. Give me the bottle I mixed." And see, the commission should have picked that up, that he had two bottles. They were only allowed one bottle of water so that that wouldn't happen. And then, of course, there was the Billy Costello disaster right after and I filmed it. I didn't realize at the time. After the Duran Moore fight, it was June 16th, 1963, 83. It was Roberto's birthday. On the undercard was Billy Collins, who was a good little fighter, not terrific. And he was trained by his dad. And Panama Lewis, who was also a trainer, who worked with, well, he was working with Luis Resto, the other fighter. And what he did with Luis is he put plaster of Paris around the gloves, around the wraps. And then he put the gloves on and he took the sawdust out of the gloves. So basically, Billy was hit with nothing. Was being hit with no protection at all. Billy's eyes were all swollen. And about, I think it was 2 months later, Billy was in an auto accident and they think he killed himself. Davy Moore died, but he didn't kill himself. His Jeep ran over him in his driveway. So there's a lot of sadness around boxing, a lot of dirty stories, but a lot of good stories too, you know.
You took this one of Mike going to the ring?
I don't think that's my photo. It could very well be,
Okay.
but I don't think it is. And the reason I say that is because Freddie Roach, I never saw Freddie Roach with a mustache.
Okay, because you posted it, but maybe it's I'm confusing. This one your dad took, right?
My dad took that picture. My dad was a photographer and a lawyer. He took the picture. And next to Mike on the right is Julio Cesar Chavez. And of course, behind him, you can see Don King. And Dad was at the Hilton. And I was busy with a substitute teaching job. And my dad went up and took the pictures. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My father loved boxing, and my mother was crazy. Oh, there I am with Camacho. We both won awards at Guantes. I was photographer of the year. That was either 1983, 84, 85, or 86. Probably 85. And there's Macho. He won for, I think, lightweight champ of the year. He was one of my favorites. He was murdered in Puerto Rico. A bad drug deal.
Another one.
Yeah. Too many of
them. What happened there?
Drug deal, from what I understand. Macho was always getting in trouble, but he was such a sweet guy, just a sweetheart. And I don't know, something that the guy that was in the car, the driver, was definitely a drug dealer. And Macho was in the car with them. So the guy shot both of them. And I was teaching school. It was 2008. And I heard the news. My kids and I were watching, during lunch, my students would eat with me and we would put different things on. We had the news on. There's Mike. And it said, they said, Macho Camacho is brain dead. I thought I was going to faint. The kids said, "What's wrong, Miss P?" I said, "Oh, it's just my friend. He's really sick." I mean, what do you say to special needs kids? And it really hurt me. And they had 5 days later, they took him off of life support because he was brain dead. Macho. There are a lot of them. Trevor Berbick, I think it was 2008, was stabbed to death by his cousin or beaten to. I read he was stabbed to death, and then I heard he was beaten to death. And then we just had the death of Richie Sandoval. He was 63. No one knows. I don't speculate. People said it was cancer. People said it was brain damage, and some people said it was a heart attack. I don't do that. I don't speculate. I contacted the family. They're supposed to get back to me. There's an autopsy. But Richie was wonderful. He was bantamweight champ, knocked out Jeff Chandler, who was a great boxer too. And Chandler retired after the 15th round. That was it. So, there's Mike. This was taken in 87 or
You
86.
took this one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's Mike at the gym. And what I love about this is I found this online. Somebody had posted it online, and it was from, I worked for Japan World Boxing, and they took this picture and they turned it into, on the right hand side is the whole, instead of having 10 pages, 12 pages, it's only one page. You just put it on your wall. Joe Sports was selling that for $285. He sold two of them and another one for $235. I don't know what he got for them, but that's what he was asking. There's Roger, and that's my picture I was never paid for. There's Roger with his WBA belt and Jimmy Montoya's gloves. He was posing for me, and this was taken at Caesar's Palace. It wasn't up in his room because I very seldom went up into the rooms. It was just taken in the hallway or something. That's Roger Mayweather. He trained Floyd.
Yeah.
Roger,
And that's you at work, I guess.
there I am. Actually, my protege took this picture, Chris Farina, who is a big photographer now in Hollywood. And I said, can I use the picture? And he said, you were my teacher. Of course you can. He's wonderful. Great photographer. Does a lot of movie stars, a lot of, just a really cool guy. He took that picture of me. Where'd you get that picture?
I'm just looking through some of your pictures as we're talking here to see the ones of the people that I recognize. But you definitely have done some good ones. Did you ever get Tommy Morrison pictures?
No, because Tommy didn't start fighting until late 1989, but I think I may have some photos. I've got 17 notebooks to look through. I may have gotten some pictures of him when he was at Toko's gym. I do have a picture. Let me get it. It's just right behind me. Hang on one second. I know you're not supposed to do this during a podcast.
Oh, you can do it. I don't mind.
Yeah, this is this is one of my favorites that I took. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Ali was always making faces. There. Ali was always making faces for me. And I have one of Tommy Hearns and Ali together. And Ali did the, and I said, do it back to him, Tommy. And Tommy did it. The picture went national. It was Ali and Tommy Hearns was doing the same thing. They were squaring off. It's very funny. If I hadn't known it, I would have had more pictures ready for you. I mean, I have hundreds of them sitting around in here.
What do you think is the biggest difference in boxing now compared to back in the 80s?
Oh, it's very simple. We have too many champions. We have champions that have had 12 fights in their champions. We have too many organizations, not like the WWE and the WWF and what is the other one? There's another one. You don't have
there's only two real ones where you can make money in wrestling.
And see, here you have, and then we have, we have the IBF, International Boxing Federation, the WBO, World Boxing Federation organization, WBC, World Boxing Council, WBA, World Boxing Association, I think it is. And then there are all these other little ones. And so all these guys are champs. There's one called IBOF. I have no idea what it is. We have too many champs. We need to have the WBA and the WBC and combine them, just like they did before when I was doing the fighting in the 80s. We had the WBA champ and the WBC champ fight for the undisputed world champ. Now everybody's a world champ. It's and the fights are all pay-per-view. The good ones are pay-per-view. Even ESPN, we used to see the fights free. I used to do work for NBC, CBS, and ABC for their, worldwide sports and, whatnot. I did that too. And now you can't find a fight that isn't on pay-per-view. And even the sports bars don't have them. I'd go to the sports bar, get a pizza and watch, and a soda and watch the fight. They're not doing it anymore. I called and I said, why aren't you doing it? They said, it's not worth the money for us.
That is true. I haven't noticed that. You'll still see UFC everywhere and sometimes wrestling pay-per-views, but very rarely will
And
you watch.
MMH, MMH, you can turn it on at least once a week and see a free card. Or they're kicking each other and rolling around. There's Tony Trudnich and Mike Weaver. Mike Weaver was the WBA champ that Dokes knocked out. Well, he really didn't knock him out. He was still on his feet and talking. He was ready to fight. Tony's the one that was murdered, I was telling you about. Tony was beloved. I just can't believe anybody would have done that to him. But you never know. I know he didn't kill himself. I can tell you that for sure. Tony just had too much going for him. He was a millionaire. He drove beautiful cars. He had beautiful women, all the jewelry. I went to his house because he wanted to buy some pictures. Beautiful home. I don't get it. I really think it was a botched robbery. Then they just put the gun down, just like with Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was murdered by the mob, and they threatened him and his wife and his children if he didn't take a dive in the second fight with Ali. And he took a dive. There was a phantom punch. If you look, you can see the phantom.
Yeah, I interviewed George Chuvalo, and he even ran into the ring after that. And if anyone knows, it's going to be him.
Yep. And I understand George Chuvalo now is suffering from CTE too. So many of the fighters are.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think Alzheimer's now as well. Like he's not doing well these days.
Well, they used to call boxing, they called it punch drunk, and then they called it boxing dementia. Now we call it what it really is, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And it just means the brain is like being eaten away. And they have a new machine. Lisa McClellan was telling me, she's G-Man's sister who's taking care of him. G-Man was brain damaged in a fight in France. No, it was in England, but he had a French referee who didn't speak any English. Well, there's a machine that she helped create. She's a nurse, I understand. And you put it on your hand, you run it over the fighter's head and across here, and it can tell whether the fighter has brain damage. It can tell if there's a blood clot or something wrong with the arteries, or if there's some kind of brain damage, it shows. And it's $1,500. And I think every boxing commission should have that, and every boxer should be tested before. It doesn't hurt. You just run it over their head and you can tell if there's something wrong. I think that's really important now with all the brain damage going around.
Yeah, and the one thing I don't like with boxers and wrestlers is the fans will like make fun of them for it, but it's like they're doing this to entertain you, and then when they get too beat up, you're just going to laugh at them and say, "Oh well, it's their."
They're forgotten. That's why I'm doing a book. My book is going to be, every penny of it is going to the fighters because they accepted me. They worked very hard. And one person said to me, well, Linda, they made lots of money. Yeah, they made lots of money, but they didn't know how to spend it. Muhammad Ali knew how to spend his money because he had a financial advisor, my friend Gene Kilroy. He was not only a friend, he was his financial advisor. Sugar Ray Leonard had a great lawyer, and I think his name was Mike Traynor. And he made sure that Sugar Ray didn't blow all his money. Dave Wolf, who managed Ray Boom Boom Mancini, also was a great manager. And so, and Jimmy Montoya was a great manager. He must have had 125 boxers. But some of these that really made a lot of money don't have anything now. I just sent one of them $150 because he had to pay his rent and he was living with his daughter and they needed the money. People say, why do you do that? I said, well, when I sell photos, that's what I do with the money. So they don't have a federation or anything like when a football player gets injured, you have a union. Baseball, basketball, they all have a union. So when something happens to them, they're taken care of. With fighters, they have nothing except anything that they've managed to save. A lot of them were out on the street. Rocky Lockridge was a great fighter. I think he was 130 pounder, maybe 126 pounder. He was found living in an alley behind the gym. what's his name? Sweet Pea. I called him Pee Wee. Whitaker, great fighter, great champion, had 5 strokes and died when he was hit by a car, running around, jogging in a black suit in the middle of the night. Tommy Morrison. Tommy Morrison did not die of AIDS or HIV. There's a big problem with Don King there. He was scheduled to fight Mike Tyson. All of a sudden, he supposedly has HIV. If the blood test showed HIV, why didn't the commission do a second test and use a different blood lab? Instead, they said, nope, you've got HIV, you tested positive, your career is over, you're banned from boxing. If you're banned in Vegas, you're banned everywhere. So Tommy ended up, with drugs and this and that and women. But at the autopsy, they found there was no presence of HIV in his body, and he did not die of AIDS. He died of septicemia. And this is in the autopsy report, because I'm doing a podcast with his wife, his second wife, Trisha. She has been fighting 20 years to get his name cleared. And the autopsy reads septicemia followed by cardiac arrest. And I didn't know that Tommy had implants. Maybe for Rocky V, he got implants. And then he went to prison for something, and he got bitten by an animal. Well, an insect is an animal. It's not a plant. So anyway, he got bitten by something, and they did surgery. They left a roll of gauze in his chest. He got infected, and that's what killed him. It spread all over his body. He did not die of AIDS. He looked like he did, but he didn't die of AIDS. No mention of it. They did blood tests. They did tissue samples. So there is a wasted life. Great. He was a great fighter. He did get knocked out a couple times, but the people liked him. He was sweet, just like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson knocks out everybody too. I don't like the idea of these old fighters coming back, though, because they do have brain damage. They have, even in sparring, you have brain damage. And I said to one of the fighters, how do you get brain damage when you're wearing a headgear? They said, Linda, don't you understand? Our brain is still being bounced around, but we're not getting cut or bruises.
Yeah, I can actually agree with that. I've had those type of I've had actually worse concussions from sparring.
Yeah. And because the back of your head is hitting, it's like jello back there. I know.
But yeah, you could easily still knock someone out wearing headgear. It happens all the time.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It helps prevent cutting and stuff.
And then, of course, the reflexes aren't there. Now, I still think Mike Tyson is going to knock out Jake Paul. But Jake Paul, if you look at him, he's a shrewd businessman, just like Mayweather. People laugh at Mayweather. He's the first billionaire in sports history. The first, not just boxing, sports. None of them have ever made $1 billion. He did. And he gives a lot of it to charity, because I read up on him. He has 7 charities. He took care of his brother, Roger. And I think he gets a bad rap sometimes. But if he wants to spend his money, he can spend it any way he wants. He earned it. And he's the one that started the MMH or UFC, those fights with Jake Paul. I mean, they earned, I think he got 400 million and Jake Paul got 100 million. Mike Tyson is fighting Jake Paul and is supposed to get, I think, 300. He gets 200 million.
Yeah, those are these exhibition boxing matches that are they're actually less popular now than when they first came out, but the Tyson Jake Paul one will still be big.
Yeah, that's supposed to be a big one. Everybody said, "Are you going?" I said, "No, it's going to go one round. That'll be it. Make Mike mad, and it's all over."
However, Mike has been taking drugs since he's like 13. And I don't know how old he is now. Is he 60 yet?
Jake Paul?
No, Mike.
Oh, Mike. Mike is 57.
Yeah, so my only thing with Mike is I know he has good health care and everything, but like all those years of abusing his body.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And he took a lot of punches and a lot of sparring. I think I don't want him to fight again. I love Mike. And last time I saw him was 1989. But he has the money. I don't know what this is. There's something with fighters. They just have to get back in the ring again, you know. And now a bunch of them are following Mike, and they said, no, we want to get back and we want to do an exhibition, or we want to fight Jake Paul. They're all lined up to fight Jake Paul.
Because there's huge
And
money and publicity in that, but also Saudi Arabia is paying. I think they just paid Tyson Fury 100 million.
And you know what the sheik told him, or whatever he's called. He said he'd give Mike 900 million if Mike could knock the guy out in one round or 1 minute or something. And I thought, wow, that's just amazing. By the way, Mayweather fought Conor McGregor, not Jake Paul. Now that I think about
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
they made a fortune on that.
yeah, and that was Mayweather who started that. And Mayweather and Connor. My sister wanted to go see that. She was living in Vegas. They were sold out 3 weeks before the fight. I think Connor got knocked out by Mayweather,
I don't think it was a knockout. No.
but they made a lot of money. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a shrewd move. And look at Jake Paul now. You've got to give him credit. I mean, and with the fighters today, like I say, everybody's a champion. We need to reunite the WBA, WBC, and pull it together. Oh, there I am. My friend Chris Farina took that picture too. That's my favorite picture. There I was at the showboat with my Nikon on the ring, of course, because it was at the showboat. And so, and there's Salvador Sanchez. That came out of the newspaper I worked for. And Salvador was killed in an auto accident at the age of 23. Many feel, including that he would be the greatest Mexican boxer of all times. He was incredible. He just had the moves. He had the intelligence. He worked out. He trained. He took on everybody. His fight with Danny Red Lopez was epic, and they fought twice. There's Benitez when they called him El Radar. He could see a punch coming. Benitez was an amazing fighter, and he's in horrible condition now. He's bedridden. He is blind in one eye, and he has terrible CTE. And because his right eye goes off to the side, I tell people all the time, when you're photographing him, please photograph him with sunglasses. So at least give him his dignity, but he can't do anything. There's Dwight Cowie, former Dwight Braxton at Toko's, hitting the bag with his head. He was a great fighter too. Dwight Braxton was his name. I think he was a heavyweight. Oh, there's my mom and dad with Dolly Parton.
And you took this one too. I guess she came to the showboat or something.
My dad looked like Willie Nelson there with that beard. But he, my brother was her drummer for 5 years, and she was appearing at the Thomas and Mack Center. I was 85 or 86, and my brother was the drummer. And so I got in on a press pass to see them, and it was great fun. Dolly, what you see is what you get, and she is very, very. Oh, she's a billionaire, I guess, millionaire, and she gives thousands to charity. She has a monthly program where she sends out free books to the kids who don't have books, all the poor kids all over the country. It's something like $300 million worth of books she has sent out. She's truly an amazing woman. And she's very sweet. Very sweet. What you see is what
any stories you could share about her from your brother?
With Dolly? No. The story I can share is with Ike and Tina Turner. He played with Ike and Tina Turner for a short time in 1971. And Ike, just like that movie, What's Love Got to Do with It? Ike was always beating Tina up. And David said he couldn't take it any longer. And Ike was very mean to the band. And so my brother walked away from it. I only have one picture. We only have one picture in existence of him playing with Ike and Tina Turner. I had to fix it up a little bit, but it's the only one. Then he played with the Motels. And suddenly last summer, he has all these gold records.
That's him and you and Dolly there, right?
Yeah, there he is with me and Dolly. who looks like she's 20 years old. She looks that way all the time.
Yeah,
She's
she
just,
still looks like that.
yeah, she's a sweetheart, just a sweetheart. And she's having a rough time because I think her husband, Dean, of many years, has Parkinson's now. I read that. I'll have to get it verified. That just what you read in the news isn't always true.
Yeah, they all have their narratives to spin. Couple more photos that I found interesting here.
Yeah. Ah, that's Jose Suleiman on the right. His brother Mauricio now runs WBC after Jose passed away. Wonderful man. And on the left is Wilfredo Gomez, who was a great champion. He is doing great now. He had a drinking problem and stuff. He was so heavy when I first saw him. They were carrying him out to the hospital. I didn't recognize him. But his epic fight was with Salvador Sanchez. Salvador beat the daylights out of him. He was unrecognizable when Sal finished with him. But Wilfredo is a great Puerto Rican champion. Well, WBC champion too. Featherweight, 126 pounder. Fabulous fighter. Just really talented. It says, with love for Linda, Julio Cesar Chavez. I speak Spanish, as I said. I think my dad must have taken that. Yeah, that's Julio Cesar Chavez, great lightweight fighter, one of Mexico's best, and hardest body puncher ever, according to fighters that fought him. They said, wow, when he hit you in the stomach, you couldn't take more than a couple of rounds. And he's not active anymore, of course, but he's fine. He appears at a lot of the different halls of fame. He's in all the halls of fame. There I am with Macho Camacho. Hector, 1985. Ringside at the Showboat Hotel. I must have slipped down in between rounds to take a picture with Hector. Just never saw him without a smile. This was probably taken by the Frank, I think his name was Frank Silvani. He was the Showboat photographer, and he took that of us. One of my favorite pictures of Macho and me, Macho and I. What else you got there? There must be more. I love these photos.
Yeah. What was the dressing room like at the Showboat? Just I'm curious, were they individual dressing rooms like for wrestlers? Did they all get their own, or was it too?
I don't have any idea.
Oh, they wouldn't let you back there?
I just never went back there.
Okay.
What I did is I went in Toko's gym. I went into to interview Larry Holmes, and Larry was lying there with nothing on but a towel. I didn't know what was under it, and there was some woman massaging him. Don King's was a photographer. She came around about 1987 or so, and I didn't want to have anything to do with that, so I got the hell out of there. I don't do that. I don't fool with the fighters at all. They'll tell you that.
Who is the biggest ladies man? I know that like literally all the boxers, especially in the 80s, had so many girls.
I think it would have to be Mike Tyson. The women loved him. Mike Weaver was happily married. Greg Page, another heavyweight, was happily married. But Mike Tyson was the sweetheart of the 80s. He will be on the cover of my book. They were not, they weren't lover boys because they had private lives. Like Salvador Sanchez, you never saw them around other women. Larry's wife is wonderful, Diane. And they were married. I didn't do that. I don't know what the dressing rooms look like. I know that a couple of the fighters used to get dressed in their hotel rooms. I know that because Jimmy Montoya told me, and I went up one time. He wanted to pay me, and there was Pulga Torres. Pulga means flea. Pulga, Joel Torres, and Joel was getting his hands wrapped, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a fighter in a bedroom. But I did spend the night with a bunch of fighters. I was too tired to go back from the Showboat. It was a long card, and I said to Jimmy, I'm just too tired to drive. Jimmy was the manager of all these fighters. So I had 4 fighters sleeping on the floor, and I was sleeping in the double bed. No one touched me. A true story. They didn't touch me because Jimmy would have killed them. Ah, there's Tony Trudnich with the uh, triplets, the Weaver triplets, Floyd, Lloyd, and Troy. They actually are identical. And as I said before, only 1 in 20,000 triplets are identical. They even look more identical now. This was taken back about 85 or 86. And Tony was managing them. There I am with Julio Cesar Chavez, the champ. I like this picture because Ray Mancini didn't know the character behind him, who is the director of the photography, for the cameraman. He didn't. Ray had no idea this picture was being taken. I just thought that was funny. I had to snap at that. This is Johnny Tocco with an unknown fighter. No one can figure out who he is. We all thought he was a British fighter. I forgot his name. But when I checked the chin and the nose, it wasn't right. We don't know who he was. He could have been a sparring partner, but he and Johnny were goofing around. There's Tony with Mike Weaver. Mike was called Hercules, and he got the name, Kenny Norton gave him the name Hercules because he used to be a sparring partner with Kenny Norton. WBA heavyweight champ. My cover with, of course, Macho Camacho. This was actually taken, I think, at Gleason's gym after a sparring session. He was all sweaty, and I like that because you can see the sweat glistening all over him. I think that's very cool. Everybody loves that picture of Macho. And it's one of the few pictures where he looks serious. This is Joey Roach. This was sent to me. I took this photo, but it was sent to me by Joey's grandson or son, Ryan. Joey died at 47 in his sleep of a heart attack. And here he was training at Tocco's gym, and Johnny was, wrapping his hands or wrapping the gloves, as you can see. And that's little Joey Roach. There was Freddie Roach, who trained Pepper Roach and Joey Roach. And Pepper's had some problems too. This, I didn't take this picture, I don't think. This is Rose Trenton, one of my best friends, my sister. She is the first female New York State boxing commissioner with the longest tenure. She beat out all the men, 1985 to 2000. She's been in Cosmopolitan magazine. She's bilingual, and she was a teacher for 42 years in New York. I thought at first when I looked at this, that was Rodney Dangerfield, but it may not be. But I know I didn't take that picture.
Okay, well, it sure as hell looks like
it's a cute picture.
Lots of great pictures that we've gone through. It's getting a little late here, so I should probably get to bed, but I appreciate all of your stories. If anyone wants to look at your pictures, you are on Facebook, Linda.
Yes, Platt. Linda Platt. And then there's the Johnny Tocco Facebook page too. I just looked, I have 3.7 thousand on my Facebook page. I had no idea. And Johnny Tocco's,
Tocco Facebook page. You run that one?
Yeah, I run that, and I run Tocco's because I feel that we need to honor Tocco because his gym was the first gym. It's been saved, but it's only used for private purposes now. But they were going to tear it down. But it was a mob restaurant, and they turned it into Johnny's gym, and he was there from 1953 until he died in he died in 1997. He was 87. I don't know who took that picture of me. It's one of my favorite pictures too.
Somebody wants to know if you have any photos of Christy Martin.
I have current photos of Christy Martin. Christy Martin and I met at Tocco's gym, but she was just beginning. She didn't start her boxing career, I don't think, until 1990 or 1991. And I met up with her and her wife at the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame because Rose was being inducted. I'm being inducted next year. But Christy, very nice. And she had a stroke. She had 3 or 4 strokes after her husband tried to kill her, murder her. She has a good book about it.
How did he try and kill her?
What happened was he trained her, and she became champion. She was doing a great job, and she told him, she said, "Honey, I'm gay or lesbian," and he couldn't believe it, and he stabbed her quite a few times and shot her, and she ended up having a stroke or a couple of strokes. Here's a Cinderella. Say hi, Tinny. There's Cinderella.
Oh,
Go
you've
away.
got two of them.
I have 6 cats. Anyway,
Oh, wow. That's a
3
full-time.
outside, and they're all rescues, and then the dog. But yeah, Christy, very nice. I didn't have much of a chance to talk with her. The one I really like too is Layla McCarter. We talk back and forth, and Layla has been fighting ever since she was 21. She's 46 now. She started, I think, in 91, or not 46, 45. And she went to Dubai. I said, "What'd you go to Dubai for?" She said, "I got to travel. I got good money, and I had a boxing match and I won." And I said, she'll never retire. She's amazing. Layla McCarter. She's a 3-time world champ. And I think Christy is too. But by the time they started their careers, I was already teaching special ed kids. So I didn't,
How was women's boxing looked at in the 80s?
There wasn't any. There was some women's boxing in the 20s and the 30s, I read, but in the 80s, there was no women's boxing going on that I knew about, at least not in Vegas or anywhere else where I would have been covering it. I never covered a female boxing match. There's the Hawk. That's
I miss seeing those haircuts around.
pardon?
I miss seeing those high top haircuts.
Oh, I know.
Anyway.
That's Julian Jackson. They called him the Hawk with Johnny. That was taken in the 80s. And he's still around. He still has that haircut, but he's gray, but he looks great. He's not brain damaged to my knowledge. He's wearing Johnny's shirt. I would give my right arm to get one of those shirts. I have Johnny Toko's hat, one of his hats. But yeah, he had all the champs trained at Toko's because it was private. That's the cool part. He would let me in because he knew I wasn't going to fool around with the fighters. I had other things to do, like all my magazines, the Spanish one, Japan. I had my own column called In My Corner in the little newspaper. I just had a great time. I had a great time. And I had a great time with the wrestling too. I haven't gotten into the, I do have been writing a guy who's a champion in Israel. His name is Shimon something. And I've watched him train. He kicks people pretty hard. And I don't know much about him. Shimon something, he wrote me, and so I friended him. So I've been following his career. He travels too. And there's a little guy, his name is Austin Tapia. This kid is like a little Roberto Duran. I've never seen a kid like him. He's 8 years old. He trains like a 30-year-old. And he just won. I think he's 3-0 right now. He probably weighs 50 pounds, if that much. And he is just a little dynamo.
There's boxing for 8-year-old kids.
Unbelievable. Amateur. Well, they have little headgear on. They only go, I think, 3 rounds, 3 2-minute rounds or something. The brain damage occurs then, but you can't keep a kid like Austin away. This kid is born to fight. One of the few. There's Seek Williams on the right. He was a boxing writer. I think he's still alive. Boxing writer and announcer, as you can see. On the left is Donnie Lalonde, the heavyweight. And in between Donnie, I told him he looked like Tupac Shakur. It's he is a promoter now. He was a fighter, Sterling McPherson. So, Sterling is still around promoting fights, but there isn't that much action now, and people don't want to pay for pay-per-view. So, there's my Sports Illustrated photo of Davey Moore being knocked down by Roberto Duran, and Roberto won the junior middleweight title, WBA. I was ringside there. There I was. Sports Illustrated called and they said, "You got the picture?" I said, "You bet." So there,
That's a good point about pay-per-view, like because now in the past it's not like you could watch it 5 minutes after on YouTube, but
right.
now it's like on social media minutes after. So unless you're a super fan, why pay for it?
Well, that's why I took that picture I sent you of Tank upside down. I watched the fight. It was Gervonta Davis. He's pretty good, and he's like Camacho. He just flips off of the. And I'd actually never seen. I've seen wrestlers do it, but I've never seen somebody do a backflip before. And I caught him in midair, and it went viral. They said, "How did you do that? You weren't there." And I said, "I watched the video, and I put up my camera, and I shot it just like if I was there." Because if I showed you this, you couldn't see it on my phone if I showed it to you now. I don't
Oh, I'll
think.
put it up.
Pardon?
I'll put it up. I still have it.
Oh yeah, I just thought
I didn't realize like that you took. I know you
there it
shot it
is.
off your TV.
Yeah. Yeah. See, nobody knew that, but I did, and I just thought it was so funny, and I wanted to get him in midair because I knew nobody had ever taken a shot like that before. And then they got all these photographers there, and they all missed it. All the male photographers missed it, but old Platt gets it. I that's one of my favorite pictures, just because it's so different. It's like the one of Tito Santana. You know, I love that. I can talk boxing forever. You know.
I'm friends with Tito's daughter, who it was like a out of wedlock
Oh,
marriage, and he refuses to like
acknowledge.
acknowledge her, so it leaves a bad taste in my mouth about him. But he
Oh,
sure
that's
does present a
sweet.
nice guy persona.
Oh, for goodness sake. See, sometimes you don't know the dirty little stories behind what goes on. But
Sometimes the good guys are the bad guys in real life, and the bad
yeah,
guys are the good guys at wrestling.
yeah.
I think it's more his wife because I think he cheated on his wife,
Oh,
and they have other kids, so his wife probably doesn't want to bring like to have her a bigger part of their life. But
yeah.
whatever.
See, that's what I was very careful with, because a lot of these fighters had, girlfriends and wives and everything. And I was very careful because the last thing I wanted to do was cause a divorce or cause any kind of problems, between the fighters. And I had written Leroy Caldwell before he died. He used to spar with all the champions, all the heavyweights, and he died of cancer. And before he died, though, he and I used to write each other, just talking about Toko's gym. And one day I get a note saying, "Who are you and what do you want with my husband?" And I wrote back and I said, "Let your husband tell you who I am." And she called me back and we talked and chatted. And then he died of cancer. Um, oh, I just got a message from Richie Sandoval's. Let's see if Oh no, she just said, "I love you, uncle." She didn't say what he died of. I was just looking, it just came up. The Richie Sandoval passed away. Little Richie, 118-pounder bantamweight champ, WBA bantamweight champ. He was brain damaged in a fight with Gabby Canizales. I was there. It was horrible. And he died suddenly. They just found him dead in his home, in his brother's home. And they have told me they're going to tell me when they're ready. And I said, "When you're ready, tell me, and I don't want anything to get out that isn't true." People are saying he had cancer, he had a heart attack. We don't know that. It's speculation. I don't speculate.
That's Tito's daughter, by the way. She's a grappling champion. She's a world grappling
She's
champion.
beautiful. What, she got that thing up in front of her face so you can't see her?
Sort of. She looks like him.
Oh, she's gorgeous. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Sometimes these women boxers, they're beautiful. There was one that just fought her. I like her because she reminds me of a male fighter. Um, oh, I
There,
forgot.
you can see her face more there, and that's one of her grappling
Oh,
moves.
she's beautiful. Look at
It's,
that.
it's just funny that, like, she actually is more like him than his sons because he has three sons, but he
Yeah.
doesn't, like, want to embrace it at all. But I think she's beyond the point of caring.
Yeah. You get that way, for goodness sake. Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of the fighters have babies out of wedlock and stuff. And I don't, unless I hear it from the fighter or from the girlfriend or whatever, I have to be very careful, you
Yeah.
know.
He
You know,
doesn't deny it. He doesn't deny it
yeah,
because she's not looking for anything.
she's gorgeous, just beautiful. Did you ever notice too? All of these Clarissa Shields is the one I'm talking about. She is hilarious. She looks like a model. She doesn't look like a boxer, you
Yeah.
know.
Someone's bringing up her name there.
Yeah. And some of the wrestlers, well, they did look like wrestlers. They looked like big guys. Um,
Yeah, now it's a little bit different. There's a lot more smaller guys. It's
are
not
they?
as good now though, really. They can put on big shows here and there and bring in all these celebrities and part-time guys that will come in for special events, but overall,
It's just not the same. It's the same thing with boxing. Unless it's Mike Tyson, people will pay thousands to see Mike Tyson, because he's Mike Tyson. And and he does, he'll go out to the crowd. He signs autographs. Tony Ayala did that too. He would sign, they all signed autographs. But Mike Tyson just has a big name for himself because he's such a knockout artist. And Tommy Morrison he was in Rocky and he's a good looking guy. He was John Wayne's, that's why they called him the Duke, John Wayne's nephew or something.
yeah, great
Gorgeous guy.
great grandnephew or something.
Yeah, gorgeous guy. Oh,
Yeah,
sad
horrible story.
story. Yeah.
But
See,
it's
now you got me all excited. It's time for you to go to bed. It's all, oh my goodness. Let's see, it's 11:30, 12:30. Oh my goodness, we've been on a little while, haven't we there?
yes. Well, we appreciate it. The fans appreciate those stories. I told you you wouldn't have to worry about me coming up with stuff to ask you.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff is on my Facebook page. And if you ever want to see more photos, I'd love to show more. And like I say, the book that I'm working on, is going to have starting from the heavyweights all the way back in the 80s. So, and the money goes to charity. I don't need the money. So, I want to give something back because the fighters accepted me. I was part of them. And sometimes they'd say and they'd say, oh, I'm sorry, Linda. I shouldn't have said that in front of you. I said, it's okay. It's okay. You're Gaia. I accept that. They accepted me. They didn't say, hey, look, we got a woman in here. They were wonderful with me. Same thing with the wrestlers. I don't think there were any women photographers doing wrestling either back then.
I think most guys would rather have women around than men. It's the photographers, it's the male photographers that wouldn't want to lose their jobs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had a rough time though, with taking my seat, and they didn't treat me nicely. But I don't really care because I had a great time. I had a great time with the fighters. I had a great time with the managers. I was working. I was traveling. I went to Mexico twice. Who else filmed? What other female photographer ever filmed? Jake LaMotta's wedding. I filmed all the old greats that were around. Joe Louis, Jersey Joe Walcott. Let's see. There were so many of them. Willie Pep, not Carmen Basilio. Lou Nova. There was one other one too. I forgot. Gene Fulmer. He used to spar here with my neighbor who just passed away down the block. And I said, I gave him a picture with Gene Fulmer and Alexis Arguello, and he said, where'd you get the picture? And I said, I got it. I took the picture at Toko's gym. He couldn't believe it. He said, I sparred with Gene here in Reno. They used to spar at the YMCA. I never knew that. It's now a community center. So, have a lot of history here, but not. Oh, the first fight was held here too. Jack Johnson, and I forgot who he fought. And I'm driving downtown, and I see this big sign, and it's a huge mural, beautiful mural of the fight. So I got to learn more about that. They said this is the site where the big fight was. Here it was, 5 miles from my home. I love that stuff. So, yeah. Now I'm all wide awake talking about boxing. Oh, it's so exciting, and wrestling. And
well, next time you can have your photos stacked beside you to show us.
Oh, yes, yes, because I don't want to stay and go through the box and say, "Oh, yeah, let me get,"
Yeah.
anytime, just let me know a day ahead of time and I'll line some of them up for you. Um,
Sounds good. Well, I hope you have a great night. I hope your cat lives to be at least 20, the 19-year-old
Thank
one.
you. Yeah, they're all old. I have one 21, but she's doing okay
Oh,
too.
wow, 21. I'm going to tell my friend that.
Yeah, she's 21. We think, a lab cat. She was rescued, and I've had her for 10 years. And she's
Wow,
about 20, 21 now. They're all older, but I'd rather have older. I'm old, so I want to have, I'm a senior, so I want to have animals that are, I want to outlive my animals. Let's put it that way. So,
very good. Well, I'll let you close this off with whatever you want to
yeah.
just say to shut this down.
Yeah, just God bless all of you. Keep up the good work. I'm enjoying all the sports now, and I also wish our USA team some good luck at the Olympics. I don't watch it, but you know.